Hey sweethearts, it's Wednesday. Today's my new day, so you'll start seeing me every Wednesday. Our topic this week is memory lane, so talking a little bit about our relationships, kind of where they've come from, and a little bit about grieving if that's something that we want to talk about. So I want to say welcome to the new people first. We've got 3 new folks on the channel, so hopefully you all will enjoy the insights that they bring. I know that those of us who have been here for a few weeks are excited to have some new faces and new ideas and thoughts and opinions on the channel. So I guess to give a little background about Stefan and I, we met online. We met on Plenty of Fish, and I think in terms of memory lane, I have maybe 2 pictures of him when he looked more girly. I don't think he'll let me insert one of them in this video, so it did exist at some point. But it was even pictures of him as a teenager. He was not girly at all. So when I met him, there was not really much girliness other than the girly parts. He already had short hair. He was already he was not much of a, so what I'm looking for. He was not somebody like, I wear underwires. He didn't wear underwires or have the chest out at all. He was really, even from the beginning of our relationship, was trying to kind of hide his chest as much as possible. So I never really, like some folks whose partners were fairly girly or at least more femme at the beginning of their relationship. That was not really the case for us. And that's just not really his personality per se. But he came out to me as trans it was either June or July. I should have written it down because now that I'm doing this, every time people ask me the story, I'm like, I don't know when it was. It was June or July of 2011. He moved really pretty quickly. He had already spent some time in his own mind kind of working through it, and I think for him being older, it made it a little easier because when he came out to me as trans, when he came out to me, he was already 30, and so I think that had a lot to do with kind of where he was mentally, emotionally about transition and about making that decision. Not that people who are younger aren't there or haven't spent as much time, but I think from my education and what I know about development, especially in the 18 to 25 or 24 range, there's a lot of change happening and frontal lobes are still developing and all kinds of stuff. So I think for him kind of being past that point and having been an adult for quite a few years, it gave him a lot of time to kind of think through it and be at a pretty healthy place. So he was only in counseling for about 4 or 5 months before he got his letter to start T. So he started T in January of 12, and it's been a whirlwind ever since then. It's been really great, and I think for us going into it, we went into it with the understanding that if he was being an asshole, that I was going to say something, and he'd kind of expressed that not only to me but to other folks in our circle of friends and his family to say, if I'm being difficult, tell me. If I'm only talking about trans stuff, tell me. To try and keep our life from not just being 100% about transition. So in terms of the grieving process, I don't know that I really had one. And maybe that's why I feel kind of strongly about the use of the word grieving. And I know that there are definitely people who, when their partner goes on T, they really change drastically. And for me and Stefan, he has not changed drastically. The things that he liked, he still likes. The things that he didn't like before transition, he still doesn't like. So I haven't experienced that moment that a lot of people talk about where they kind of wake up and realize that they are partnered with a different person than they originally fell in love with. So for me, there wasn't really much of a grieving process at all. And I dislike the word grieving, I think, because it feels like you're saying that you've, like, the old person, the first person that you fell in love with, when your partner was a girl, that it was that they've, like, died. And I think that's my connection between death and grief, that I kind of put those together. So I'm not a huge fan of terming it the grieving process. I guess I lean more towards it's about dealing with the changes you're seeing before you, because I have seen, I look at my parents and I look at other people who I know who have been married for many, many, many years, and the person that each of us is with right now, or if you're looking at this and you're not with someone, the person that you will or may be with in the future, 10, 15, 20 years from now, they're not going to be the exact same person that they were when you met them. Some changes are more drastic than others, but I look at my friends who have gotten divorced, and being 30, I have many friends who are divorced. A lot of friends that I have that got married straight out of college are already divorced. And a lot of that was the person changed. And so I think I struggle with grieving, with calling it grieving, because that person's not dead. They're just different than the way that we as partners might want them to be. And it's different than a normal non-trans couple, or a couple where one or both partners are trans, but they have reached kind of the end of their medical transition, other than the maintenance stuff. Because it's all that change that you might see over 5 or 10 years is squished into 2 years or a year. And so I think it's the rapidness of the change that really causes people to struggle, and that causes people to talk about, well, I'm losing my partner. Even though some of those changes may have happened anyway, especially if they're around personality, those changes may have happened anyway, but it might have taken your partner 5 years to change from always want to cuddle at night to don't want to cuddle at night, just to take a random example. It might have taken 5 years, as opposed to they get on T in a month, they're like, stop touching me. So I think that's part of what I hear when people talk about grieving, is it is the change, but it's also the speed of the change, in that it's moving so quickly that their brain can't catch up to what's happening. So I'm trying to think if I have other things about grieving but I think for me, like I said, I didn't have much of that, because he was already him, just with a girl name and female pronouns. So for me, it was an easy transition, because it felt really natural. So hope everybody has a great week. Happy 4th of July. If you live in a red state like I do, write to your senators and congressmen, because if they're like mine, they're doing crazy things. If you haven't read about the sneaky Ohio abortion craziness, you should read about it so that you know what's going on in the country. And yay, Wendy Davis, in 12 hours, or almost 13 hours. So anyway, happy 4th of July. Hope everybody has a great week, and see you next week. Peace.